And I love that you mentioned storytelling. So up next, we've got 5 awesome stories that I'm really, really excited for all of you to hear. And a good friend of all of ours, Marcus Whitney, who's a phenomenal storyteller. I'm going to hand it over to him now to help navigate us through these 5 stories. So stay tuned while I cue this up. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Paul. Hey, everyone, and welcome to the Voice Event 2020. Thanks for joining us today. I'm excited to be hosting this virtual panel discussion with successful business owners who have made an investment in voice over the last 12 months. What does this mean specifically? It means they now have launched or are in the process of launching custom apps on top of Alexa and Google Assistant that will help their business become more efficient and effective, relevant, and valuable in the near future. Our first business owner up is Carmen Johnston, a successful entrepreneur and business owner based out of Central Georgia, who provides landscaping and special event services for clients all over the country. She's now offering local delivery services in Thomaston, Macon, and Columbus, Georgia. Carmen is an innovator, utilizing digital and content marketing to grow her brand awareness and drive her business. She has pioneered an approachable method of gardening and entertaining with flowers and plants by empowering beginners to veterans to create instant beauty through her smart container gardening. A key component of her philosophy is that all design, from gardens to landscape creations, should have a level of functionality. This mindset allows her to begin every project with great dedication and attention to detail. With a strong Instagram following, a DIY blog, and a podcast, Carmen decided to add a custom Alexa skill and Google action to her arsenal in 2019 and 2020. Alexa, launch Carmen Johnston Gardens, and Hey Google, let's talk gardening tips. Both allow you to connect with Carmen and learn her top tips to maximize your garden in a practical way.
Are you excited? Yes! Yes, I'm excited. All right. Alexa, launch Carmen Johnston Gardens.
Hi, I'm Carmen. I'd love to help you garden and entertain. Get started by saying home and garden, holidays, recipes, or follower favorites.
Follower favorites.
Choose from our most popular. Say favorite houseplants, terrarium DIY, voice-activated faucet, indoor planter DIY, or easy houseplant care. To hear these again, say repeat.
Terrarium DIY.
Good choice. If you're on an Echo Show or device with a screen, say watch. If you're not, say listen.
Watch.
How many of you want to have your own indoor garden inside your own bedroom? You could either have it in your room, you could have it sitting in a sunroom, but there's so many fabulous things that you can do with an indoor garden. I like to call them terrarium.
Well, we loved her gardening tips in the pages of Southern Living. Now Carmen Johnston is the first garden lifestyle expert with how-to videos.
And that's a gorgeous succulent. We're gonna add that and layer that.
And so if you're doing this with Alexa talking to you, then you're talking us through all the steps.
Yes.
Alexa, launch Carmen Johnston Gardens. Well, I'm a busy mom with 2 kids, so anything that's fast and easy for me to be able to use right there is extremely helpful.
Alexa, launch Carmen Johnston Gardens. I do not have a green thumb. It's great because I can just call out questions to Carmen Johnston Gardens, and it's like she's right there with me, giving me all the instructions to keep my plants alive.
Alexa, launch Carmen Johnston Gardens.
It allows us to do some fun stuff outside, planting plants, teach them about gardening, things like that.
For more specific information on how this works, you can visit carmenjohnstingardens.com/voice. But for now, let's talk to Carmen. Carmen, what motivated you to start to learn about voice technology and the impact it could have on growing your brand?
We are super excited to be talking to y'all today about voice and really what
really, I would say, got us interested in the whole voice category was as I saw Gary Vee. I'm a big follower of Gary Vee, and he kept talking about voice. This is the next platform. This is something that we need to be a part of. And this was actually 3 years ago, but he kept talking about how important voice was. It was something that we need to be playing in this arena. And I felt like, hey, you know what? We are in the landscape design world, in the gardening category, and I just thought it would be a really good thing for us to be one of the leaders in the category, to potentially be one of the first people in the voice world. And I just thought that it would be such an amazing tool for people every day, to ask Alexa or ask a voice, platform, how can you help me with gardening? So our mission at Carmen Johnston Gardens is, how do we teach people how to entertain and decorate with plants and flowers? And we just thought using voice, it would be super, super helpful for them, and just to be the first on the platform.
Many business owners and decision makers are watching this. They're curious to know about the specific factors that went into your decision to invest in this voice technology. What was the toughest part of the decision to invest in building these voice apps?
I think the toughest part of the decision was voice truly is not as a developed platform as, let's say, a website or a blog or social media. And so it was almost like we had to say, okay, it's like you have to take a leap and jump and almost think, I feel like voice is going to be there in the next like maybe 2 to 3 years, and I wanted our business to be there. So when the consumers finally get there, we were there and we were ready and we were prepared for it. But it definitely was a decision. In fact, we actually took we went to that conference in New York. It was 3 years ago, and it took 2 years to actually really think about it. And then we finally met, of course, y'all, with DDD, and it took another probably 6 to 7 months to finally make the commitment. But I'm so glad that we did make the commitment, because I feel like, especially now with what's going on in the world, I think that more and more consumers are starting to use voice. They're starting to get familiar with it, and hopefully our content will be there when the consumers are there and they're ready for it and they feel more comfortable with voice.
Even after having to pivot your business due to the pandemic and state of affairs in our country in 2020, how has this investment in the voice space given you hope for the future of your business and brand?
Well, my goodness, who would have ever thought that we would be here in July in the midst of COVID? So when we initially made the investment, who would have ever thought that this would have been on the radar? But I will tell you this, I am very grateful and very thankful that we are on the platform, because more and more people are at home, and especially in the gardening category, we have seen a huge uptick. More people are interested in gardening. More people are interested in learning how to do things in the garden. So we definitely are so thankful that we are on Alexa and in the voice world, because more people are using it now because they're at home. And I definitely think that this is going to help our brand for the long term.
In hindsight, did you make the right decision investing in this voice technology?
We definitely made the right decision. Now, we have put things on pause right now because of COVID and just some different things going on with the business. But I truly believe that for the long term, I am so glad that we made the investment in the voice space, because like I said earlier, I really believe that more and more people will be using voice, and as it gets introduced into cars, and I really believe when people are going to eventually walk into their homes, everything will be voice activated at some point and in certain times, so our platform will be there.
What advice would you give to business owners and marketers about creating an Alexa skill or Google action to help their company connect with their target audience?
Well, the biggest piece of advice that I would give is don't be intimidated by it. I think it's so important just to dive in. Of course, a lot of the terminology is very overwhelming, but that's why I think it's so important to have a partner like DDD to help navigate the process, what it looks like. And they did such a great job of us helping us map out what the skill and the action would look like. In fact, it's very quite impressive. I wish that hopefully they can share with you some of those details, but it's like this massive spreadsheet where they go through all of the intents and the responses. So it's pretty incredible. Don't be overwhelmed by it. Just get in there, and I really think that's the way you are going to learn and gain a better understanding of voice. So that's my biggest piece of advice. Don't be intimidated. Dive in, try it, but also onboard a great team like DDD to help you navigate it.
Share a bit about how COVID-19 forced you to innovate quickly. Did you lean into voice or away from voice? And if you leaned away from voice, do you see yourself implementing an Alexa skill or Google action to enhance some of the ways you innovated or pivoted during Q2 of 2020?
Oh boy, did we have to pivot. For us in the States, especially as a business owner, we got very, very nervous about things shutting down, and we immediately pivoted our business and started delivering flowers to clients' homes where they would not have to go into the stores to pick up flowers. And so it was a very quick pivot, and when I mean quick, it literally had to happen within a week. It happened pretty fast. So, but I'm very thankful we did. And for voice, we actually put things on pause. We just needed to kind of step back a little bit, reevaluate, reassess where our business was. And now that things are picking back up, we're seeing, some strong momentum, especially in gardening. I definitely think that as a business, we will start investing more in voice once we kind of get through some of the roller coaster ride of COVID. I do foresee us spending more on voice for 2021. And I think that our consumers may actually speed up the process of consumers using voice because they are spending more time in their homes. So we definitely had to pivot, and we definitely stepped back from voice, but we will be leaning in more next year.
Thanks so much, Carmen. Now I'd like to welcome Todd Herman, Managing Director and co-founder of a very successful communications company based out of the Detroit area, Element H. Element H, as Todd I'm sure will elaborate on, specializes in running content engagements of all kinds for biopharma companies. These content engagements are typically activated to an internal audience made up of a marketing or sales team at a big pharma company, and more often than not, surrounding the launch of a new drug brand. From large launch event meetings with sales teams to consistent employee training, Element H basically facilitates the communication, and a lot of that revolves around technology. Todd will get specific, but I'll translate. Todd's team builds mobile apps, websites, and deploys digital strategies to essentially ensure his biopharma clients have the tools they need to educate their sales force on their initiatives. We have to stay broad on this topic to protect client confidentiality, but Todd was able to innovate with one of his clients who had a goal of deploying training-related content to their very large internal sales and marketing teams. Todd, thanks for joining us. Please give us an overview of your business goal first.
Hi, Marcus, and thanks for having me. Super excited to be part of the Voice Conference this year. This particular client initiative involved the U.S. sales force, and they wanted the ability to communicate effectively across the U.S. in a more on-demand way with the team. So they could communicate, via email, WebEx, voicemail, lots of different ways. But we brought voice voice into it because we wanted to be innovative and have another outlet for really on-demand access to communication and training.
Thanks for that. Now tell us specifically what you all implemented or are in the process of implementing.
Yeah, so we're taking a traditional podcast and we're adding Alexa voice skills to enhance that and create a little bit of innovation, a little bit of interest and intrigue around this on-demand communication and learning. And so what would be maybe a website with clickable links for your laptop or your phone is now also inclusive of the ability to use voice commands to access that information, whether you're at home on voice-enabled devices or on the road in the field, on your mobile device. Gives you multiple channels, multiple opportunities to get this important information. And part of this is an experiment to see whether the sales force will really react and engage with this method of communication, or if we're, okay, focusing on some of the more traditional methods.
So by using Alexa for Business, you're building a private skill that's managed through the AWS that allows you to invite specific users into the skill, and this skill is an interactive podcast specifically for the sales and marketing teams?
Yeah, Marcus, I think you described that really well in the technical terms and the right terminology for Alexa and AWS. From my standpoint, the business, going back to the business goal and going back to why we're doing this, we're trying to innovate. We're trying to give people access to something that is simple. And so there's a couple of moving parts from a technical standpoint, but really our goal is to go out there and reach people in a way that they want to receive information. For them, it's a simple process. For us, there's those few things to put together and piece together to make it work.
How is this different from what Element H normally does for its clients?
Well, I think there's always the opportunity to try new things, do things that are a little different. We work with one marketer who says, marketing is all about trying things and seeing what works. In this case, it's a little bit of an experiment, but also a little bit of trying something and just feeling like there's a little innovation and outreach to the field to connect with them from the home office in a time when people aren't able to get together for live events now. This is a way for us to just create another opportunity for people to feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves when they're a solo person covering a geography as a salesperson. And so that's not necessarily different from what we always do, but we're having to react and do things in different ways. And so the voice skill gives us another opportunity, another channel, another thing to talk to people about and get them excited about. It is different and it is new for us to be working with custom voice skills and mapping out how some of those things come together for the user. So understanding that kind of user experience side and the ideas of the different voice commands and things that are going to be the path to get to the right information is a little new and different for us. But there's a lot that you can draw from traditional, web, print, event, anything that we're doing to really educate and communicate with these audiences.
What do you hope to gain or achieve from implementing this new Alexa for Business skill?
Well, I think we're trying to achieve some level of innovation, some level of taking a step forward into reaching people in the way that they want to communicate. And so for this, it doesn't affect everybody. Not everybody has a voice-enabled device. Not everyone has an interest in having a voice-enabled device. But there are plenty of people who do. And so I think it's a way to show that we're receptive, we're open to the idea of being creative and kind of more user-friendly in how content is reaching people in their home environment and in just their remote environment as a U.S. sales force under normal circumstances.
Todd, how do you imagine adoption will go?
Yeah, I think that's a great follow-up because it will be interesting to see. We're in a phase right now where we're doing some testing with clients. They have some awareness of the project, our core team who's hired us to do the work, but it hasn't been fully released to the U.S. sales team. I think what we expect for adoption is that some people will be really excited to be involved and just sort of engage and jump into this. Others won't even own a voice-enabled device or have voice-enabled technology set up on anything that they own. And so we're not really forcing that on people. I think it's the kind of thing where we're offering it because we know there's an interest. That interest, will happen quickly for this, probably a small percentage of people in the U.S. sales team. But I think as word of mouth and as they start talking about some of the cool things that are happening, I think you start to get trial and then you start to get additional adoption. And so we think it'll be over the course of time something that more and more people utilize. We'll continue to use traditional channels, so web and easy access on the phone through a mobile site, but we'll create even easier access with voice commands for those people who want it.
Todd, this is fascinating. Thanks so much for sharing with us, and good luck with the rollout.
Thanks, Marcus. It was nice to have a little chat and nice to see you. Of course, I'll be interested to see what everyone else is doing and how we can keep moving voice skills forward.
Joining me now is Gaylynn Wilson, Vice President of National Pro Fastpitch. NPF is a long-standing professional women's softball league that normally features 70-mile-an-hour pitches, 240-foot home runs packed into 7 innings of gritty, gutsy, fast-paced action, but has had to cancel their entire 2020 season due to COVID-19. Speaking of gritty and gutsy, Gaylynn, thanks for joining us, and tell us quickly about the challenges of 2020 for NPF and the fan base.
Well, first of all, Marcus, thank you for the conversation today, and thank you to Paul Hickey of Data Driven Design for inviting National Pro Fastpitch and myself to the Voice Conference. So we really appreciate it. And yes, 2020 has been challenging, especially challenging for women's professional sports. For us in particular, we simply did not have the funds that we thought it would take to keep everyone, the players, the coaches, the support staff, the production crews, all of those people safe. We just did not see a way to navigate through that and keep everyone safe. We also experienced in early March, at the onset of COVID-19 pandemic, we experienced a tornado in Nashville, Tennessee. Now, it didn't hit us directly, but what it did affect was the location of our draft. We were set to have our professional draft in April in Nashville. We changed the location to Rosemont, Illinois, which is just outside of Chicago. The start of our season was to happen at the end of April, and then we were to finish up pretty early in July to allow our athletes to travel to Japan for the 2020 Olympics. Well, as you know now, we originally postponed our draft and our season. Then we had to cancel our draft, cancel our season, and the Olympics were eventually postponed to 2021. We were very confident at that time, and we still are, that we made the right decision to cancel our season. And I know that we caught a lot of flack for canceling so early, but as time has gone on, we've seen professional sports try to open their season, whether it's an individual sport or a team sport, and they've had a lot of challenges that are hard to overcome. And so even if they manage to be successful again, we are very happy and confident with our decision, because based on what we had available to us, and during that time, we wanted to make sure that we could keep everyone involved with National Pro Fastpitch safe, and we just did not see that we could do that, so we canceled the season. And yes, we hope to be back in 2021.
So we know connecting with the fan base is huge, and one way you've chosen to do that is via voice technology. You now have live voice apps on 2 platforms. Alexa launched National Pro Fastpitch on Alexa, and on Google Assistant, hey Google, talk to Pro Fastpitch Softball. You were able to do that by using the Voice Designer, a WordPress plugin that allows you to easily author and deploy voice apps to Alexa and Google Assistant from the back end of your WordPress website. Tell us about that experience in working with data-driven design.
Yes, actually connecting with our fan base is huge, but it's been very challenging since we canceled our season. And however, it's important to note that before the pandemic, we were looking for a new, creative, cool, unexpected way to provide information to our fan base quickly and accurately, because we did recognize that sometimes people want information quickly, and they are not pulling up websites to try to navigate for the first time and get frustrated trying to find a simple answer. So we thought voice apps were the way to go. And working with Paul Hickey and his staff at Data Driven Design was really a blessing. They were easy to work with. They were very knowledgeable, very patient, especially with me. They listened to our needs. They asked us good questions, and they just made it easy for us to utilize their services for building voice apps. And they too had to make adjustments during COVID-19, and they made it look easy. I don't know if it was easy for them or not, but as an end user, it looked easy and it felt easy.
Okay, so it probably wasn't really that easy to decide what kind of content to put into the skill in action, right? Because if you go to profastpitch.com, there are like 20,000 pieces of content there, and you couldn't put all of them in the Alexa skill. So how did you decide what to put in the voice apps?
Yes, Marcus, you are correct. There is a lot of content on our website. So it was very challenging for us early on to figure out, what are we going to put on there? What information is pertinent? What do people ask? What do they want to know? So we looked at three things. We just went back to the data. The proof is in the data. And we looked at our website to see which pages were visited most. We asked our staff what questions were they fielding the most. And then we looked to see what was the most immediate upcoming events that we had going. And those were the things that we built our initial questions and answers off of. And of course, there was so much more information that I wanted to put in there, but Paul and his staff, corralled us in and suggested sticking to a limited set of questions and gave us the understanding and the confidence that we can change those questions and answers out anytime and that they're updated immediately.
And can you easily change out the pieces of content using the voice designer? Like, what did you have in there after COVID-19 hit, but before you canceled your season? And how did you update it after you canceled your season?
Well, yes, to answer your first question, it is very easy to change out the data. But the answer to your next set of questions is pretty interesting that you asked that, because, again, we were building these voice skills before March. We were looking at the initial questions and answers, and we had submitted those. And then in early March, we were having to change those because we had, we were looking at postponing our draft and our start of our season. And then in April, we were looking at changing them again. And we must have changed them a few times, but what we actually changed were the answers to the initial set of questions. That turned out to be the most efficient, accurate, and easiest way to do things, was to stick with our initial questions, because those initial questions were things like, when is the start of the season? When is the draft? What number of teams are in the league? Who is the commissioner? Some of those things never changed. Some of them were postponed and then some were canceled. So just merely changing the answers seemed to be the best way to go.
With the league always fighting for attention, how do you think voice can be a differentiator for National Pro Fastpitch?
Yes, women's professional sports in general, including National Pro Fastpitch, is always fighting for attention. I don't know if the voice app is necessarily a differentiator for National Pro Fastpitch, but what I do say that it is, it makes our fans happy. It's an addition to what we provide, and they will brag if it's easy to find weather updates, scores, schedules. They'll brag on social media. They'll actually market for you on social media. Hey, they've got an Alexa skill. Just ask Alexa. The voice apps can do so many cool things. I mean, you can get creative in sports by providing tips from the pros, weather updates, download playlists from your favorite pro softball player's workout routine. And I just think that it connects your fans. It shows fans that you care, that you want to get them the most accurate and information quickly. And it welcomes them into your world, which is what they're all looking for anyway, is to be a part of the behind the scenes and to be in the know. So I think voice apps do a great job of that. And people are so creative. There's just so many things that you can do with it.
And as a successful business person, how do you think businesses should think about implementing voice technology, given the state of the world we're in right now and where we're all going?
Well, when you ask the question, my mind immediately goes to voice apps could really help the aging population and the homebound. I know that has nothing to do with National Pro Fastpitch, but I think voice apps could really help seniors with asking simple questions so that they don't have to navigate their desktops, their iPads, a website, call their grandkids or call their parents. Just asking questions like, what are the senior shopping hours at the grocery store? Asking if their prescriptions are ready at the drugstore. How to order groceries, how to reorder groceries. Emergency first aid, where are the testing sites? Just basic information that seniors could use right now, I think is very important. And those things may already exist. I also think some other business type of applications that would be handy right now would be a voice skill that reads your emails, a voice skill that schedules your Zoom calls, posts job openings, gives you reminders, gives you exercise tips. And again, those things may already exist. But also, I believe Paul Hickey has the data-driven daily tip, that those are very informative. So I would encourage all of you to log into those.
Gaylynn, lastly, how much did this actually cost MPF to implement?
Well, I believe when it was all said and done, it probably cost less than $200 and less than 2 hours of time. All we had to do was come up with the initial set of questions and answers. They built the apps or the skills. They loaded them on the site and provided a video tutorial for me to use. And it was really as simple as that and as cost effective as that. And it was money and time well spent, and we would do it all over again.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time, and good luck in the future. Hopefully we'll be seeing MPF games in 2021. Next up, we have my friend Dan Cox. Like Carmen Johnston, he and I met at Nashville Voice Conference 2019, back when we could gather together in large groups, and Dan did an amazing job as a presenter. This year, Dan is on with us to talk about his investment in the voice space over the last 12 months, which is focused around engaging his audience of his e-commerce brands, Metcon and Wealthy. Metcon can be found at metcon.com and Wealthy at imwealthy.com. That's WELLTHY.com. They're both Shopify stores, which Dan understands a lot about. Dan, welcome. I understand you and Paul Hickey have been talking about voice regularly since you met in 2018, and you've made an investment in voice recently. Can you tell us about that?
Marcus, hope all is well. Thanks for having me. So ever since Paul and I met, we've been really trying to figure out what's going to be the most convenient way for our customers and potential customers to use voice. And we felt like the best application was to provide a way to answer questions for the customers to choose the best products for them. I came from the retail side of things, and obviously with a physical retail store, we had the opportunity and the luxury of being able to talk directly to our customers, ask any questions for those who came in, and really evaluate what products would be right for them. And so now with the Wealthy brand specifically, we're looking to use the skill to provide that service to the customer of answering the questions they have to provide the best product to help them hit their goals.
Okay, great. So you're building an Alexa skill that is essentially meant to help your customers find the right product for them, and you're starting with Wealthy.
That's correct. We're going to start with Wealthy just because there's so many different applications for that product, and then hopefully move on to Metcon as well. And then even within that, we're looking at ways to really make, the Alexa device be an assistant to the customer, not only helping them find the product, but then answer questions and, help them along their journey.
What are your goals and hopes for this skill?
So I really hope this skill really, lowers the barrier to entry and lowers the friction for our consumers. So when people go to the website and they look, the hope is to have a skill that allows them to use their voice device to be able to answer any questions they have as they're looking at the products, or if they just see an ad or an influencer posting about them, be able to ask their device what, to tell them more about the product and then actually see if it's a perfect fit for them. So again, kind of, take that point the consumer is experiencing the brand for the first time, whether that be through social media or through our website, and really answering them and holding their hand along the way to get them to the right products to help them hit their goals.
Why did you decide to make the investment, and what were the factors for you?
For me, investing in voice is really, looking at not only the present, but also looking at the future. And, I kind of see it as, ever since Paul and I met, I've used voice devices more in the amount that they've become in understanding what my needs are and how to help me, has made me realize more and more how much voice is going to play such a big role across a number of categories, but really taking advantage of it in the nutrition space, just because there are so many questions that customers have that they're not able to get the answers to online. And really, instead of people having to do their deep dive and digging through websites and looking for information, if we're able to provide that on a conversational level, then I think that is going to be a huge win, not only for Metcon and Wealthy, but for the end consumer and their understanding of the products and to help them hit their goals ultimately.
As an entrepreneur, content creator, and business owner, how do you think about voice in the overall ecosystem of business? Is it content creation? Is it audience engagement? Is it e-commerce? Is it all of the above? And why?
I really do think it is all of the above. The way I'm looking at it is both from a content creation standpoint as well as an assistive standpoint. So, from a content creation standpoint, obviously podcasting, and providing, knowledge. And then from an assistant standpoint, these devices were made to be an assistant to a customer. And so how can we use this device in someone's home to assist the customer to one, educate them, provide value, and three, lower any kind of friction they have with our brand. And that's really how I'm looking at it. But I think it can be all the above. I think the interaction between voice devices and phones and computers is going to kind of start to be more seamless. And I think customers are going to begin to expect more. Even when I look at my device and I'm talking to it, I'm starting to expect more. The more it evolves, I'm starting to use it more and expect more from it. So I think brands are going to have an interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how brands really take advantage of this. But yeah, for me, content creation, providing value to the customer, and then providing an assistance to the customer is the two biggest ways I'm looking at it.
Dan, you're a wealth of knowledge on this topic. Thanks so much for sharing.
Marcus, thanks so much for having me again. I really appreciate it. Hopefully next year we'll be able to meet up again and do this on a more normal face-to-face level. But thank you again for having me, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
Joining me now is Karen Robbins, president of Stewart Transportation. Stewart Transportation has over 75 years of event planning and transportation experience, working with clients like Microsoft, Starbucks, and others to move large amounts of people quickly. Now with COVID-19, that has obviously changed a bit. Karen, thanks for joining us. In spite of the recent challenges to your business, you've always been one to invest in technology. One way you've chosen to do that is via voice technology. You now have live voice apps on 2 platforms. Alexa launched Stewart Transportation on Alexa, and on Google Assistant, Hey Google, talk to Event Transportation. You were able to do that by using the Voice Designer, a WordPress plugin that allows you to easily author and deploy voice apps to Alexa and Google Assistant from the back end of your WordPress website. Tell us about that experience in working with data-driven design.
First, thank you, Marcus, for having me on the panel today. I have worked with Paul and his team for many years, first on a new website design, all the way to building an event app. And his enthusiasm for voice app technology was really different, and I instantly knew that this was something I needed to do to differentiate our service to our customers. So I knew that I didn't want to be the last one to the party. I wanted to be the first.
Why is it important for businesses to embrace voice technology?
More than ever now with COVID-19, it really is important in many cases to be as touchless as possible. So it's really exciting for us to be able to tell our clients that all they need to do to learn more about us is to say, Alexa, launch Stewart Transportation. 98% of our clients are corporate, and over 70% of that business is in the technology field with Fortune 50 companies. So the event transportation industry really is notoriously low tech, but our customers expect us to keep innovating our services, and voice app technology is the prime way to do that now.
Being in the event transportation industry coming out of this pandemic, how are you looking at reinventing your business for the future? And does voice help you with that?
To the point of the touchless experience, a true differentiator for STS is that we've always been a company that does provide top-notch, high-touch transportation experiences. So we must now look at ourselves as the company that provides top-notch, high-touchless transportation experiences for all of our customers. Voice will help us do that by streamlining our booking system and updating our marketing approach and really creating some on-site messaging options that would normally take pen to paper to accomplish.
With businesses fighting for attention, how do you think voice can be a differentiator for Stewart Transportation?
Well, voice has many options to make our service different from our competitors. It's not just about using voice as a marketing tool for website information. We plan to use voice to launch our apps for our customers when they are in the field, at an event, as well as taking voice further and using it as a communication tool between drivers and staff. Large events really create scenarios that require us to act and make decisions really quickly, and voice is a tool to do just that.
As a successful business person, how do you think businesses should think about implementing voice technology, given the state of the world and where we are and where we're going right now?
Voice really is an easy and inexpensive add-on to your current marketing program, and it's a buildable tool that has many opportunities to deliver your service to your clients just by the sound of their voice, with virtually no effort. So voice is the future, and it has many untapped capabilities and applications. And honestly, the data-driven design team, I think I've driven them a little bit nutty over the years on ways that we can use voice in the future. And it's exciting. Plus, it has a huge wow factor for a sales impact. I would rather introduce voice to my clients and have my clients ask if I have it.
Karen, lastly, how much did it actually cost Stewart Transportation to implement the voice designer?
Implementing the voice designer was the least expensive marketing decision that I have ever made. So from an ROI standpoint, I'm winning with voice.
Great. Thank you so much, Karen. Thanks for your time and good luck in the future. A special thank you to all the business owners and executives who joined us in this session. And while things are constantly changing, it certainly seems that there is still a lot of room for innovation in the voice space. In this session alone, we've seen several case studies, from Carmen's robust content-based video skill with how-to tips to Dan's e-commerce focused experience, Todd's interactive podcast that is only accessible to invited guests, and Karen and Gaylynn's informational-based low-lift skills using the voice designer. This is great stuff. Paul, back to you.
Thank you, Marcus. Great job. Marcus Whitney, CEO and founder of Health Further and co-founder and co-owner of the Nashville Soccer Club. Carmen Johnston, owner of Carmen Johnston Gardens. Todd Herman, managing director of LMNH. Gaylynn Wilson, VP National Pro Fastpitch. Dan Cox, the owner of Metcon.com and IamWealthy.com. And Karen Robbins, the president of Stewart Transportation. We've got a lot of folks from Stewart Transportation in the conference right now. Thanks to everybody so much for sharing your stories. I personally find it fascinating to get that behind the scenes look at making the business decisions that these folks have made, and learning from them on, their perspective on that is phenomenal. Want to give a big shout out to Corner to Corner, our beneficiary partner. Really more than anything, they are a partner. They're great people over at Corner to Corner. There's Will Acuff waving on his camera. Good to see you, Will. And I know Shayna's on. She's been on too. Will, you're this close, man. You just have to let me click publish on your voice app for Corner to Corner, and then you'll be good to go. You'll be on Alexa and Google Assistant. So I know you guys are busy saving the world, though. So give the thumbs up from Will. But thank you, everybody, for donating to Corner to Corner. We're going to make a donation to them. I'll announce that probably next week. I'll get with Will, and we'll figure that out. But all of the money that everyone spent on the Voice event, getting into the conference, and thank you to our sponsors also for helping out with that. That there's going to be a donation made to Will, Tiffany, Shayna, the folks over at Corner to Corner. And if you want to, go to cornertocorner.org right now, and you can actually make another donation to them if you feel so inclined. They just do some amazing work. And so